What's going on, guys? It's Saturday, like I said I would try to get a video out on, and, well, if you're watching it, it's probably Saturday, maybe Sunday, but hey, I did it. Yeah, this is a different setup, different circumstances, I'm not in the same place. Pretty fucking easy question to answer, but, yeah, I'm getting used to this new camera setup. I did find an angle where the glare on my front camera isn't noticeable, which is this one, clearly, unless you can notice a glare, and then I didn't do that. So, but yeah, like I said, this is going to be an 8th grade one. This is going to be a shorter one because 8th grade has a lot more that I think about, now that I think about it. So this is going to be more of like some highlights, the standouts. There will be some big main event stories in another 8th grade video, but this is going to be a lot of the heavy-hitting ones that we remember and we still talk about. So let's just jump into it. 8th grade, it started in 2015. And there wasn't a whole lot that happened in the beginning of 8th grade. You know how the beginning of the school year is. You're generally just hanging out with the people you were got tight with at the end of the grade before, right? So that's what was going on. But the first thing I want to talk about is, I know the second that anyone saw the title of this video that this was eventually going to come, but the saga that involved a certain teacher started actually before the first day. And I don't think I actually told anyone about this. Maybe no one knows this. I just feel like this is something that I would tell Noah. But I'm not going to say the teacher's name because that might take a little far. But, you know who it is. I'll just leave it as that. So before, I've been on a swim team most of my life, like I've said, a long time, year-round. And over the summer, in between 7th and 8th grade, one of the new swimmer coaches who had just graduated high school a year or two, or maybe he had just graduated high school at the time, so this is his summer after his senior year, I'm pretty sure. Maybe 2 years after, but something along those lines. He also went to the same middle school that I was going to, and after I got my classes list, he looked at it and he said, "Oh, you have that teacher for math." And I was like, "Yeah, what does that mean?" And then he said, just go through the first day and you'll know. I go, okay, that should have set something off because he and I had been somewhat close. Like, we were kind of like that weird older brother, younger brother dynamic you get whenever you're on a sports team with significantly older people. You know, we were there together a lot. We talked about Marvel and Star Wars mainly. That was around the time that the trailers for The Force Awakens were coming out, so we were talking about that a lot because 2015 was the year that Star Wars came back, which is actually a story that I might mention in this video, which you'll see. But so he said that about the teacher, and then day one, lo and behold, the teacher is a pretty fucking hot. I'll just leave it at that because I know you guys wanted to hear me say that to some extent. So yeah, she was. So I go back to practice that day after, and I walk up to him, I just go, "Yeah, I know what you mean now." And he laughed pretty hard. Unluckily, my mom was standing close enough to hear me because she was a coach with him at the time, and she peeks over and goes, "Oh, what do you mean?" I fucking panic, don't say anything, and walk away. He supposedly explained something to her. I don't know what. I'm not gonna ask. And I didn't ask back then, but that's how that whole saga of that teacher started. So, if anything, blame that guy because the seeds for her being attractive were planted in my mind by him. So, you know, 8th grade, 13 years old, with an attractive teacher for math. I'm sure you can guess how that went. But a couple months down the line, this is when I had got closer with Jeremy, to the point where we were in our history class together, which was 5th period. We had math 6th period together. 5th period was before lunch, so there was lunch in between. And this was probably my idea because I was the one who brought this conversation up a lot. But I decided to tell him, hey, if you could, date anyone in the school, who would it be? And I made explicitly sure to say anyone in the school, not any student, right? Because in the back of my mind, I was thinking about the teacher. No hiding that. And I feel like he had a suspicion because I had made jokes about it before, and so had Noah. And he said, I don't want to say that. That's a weird ass question. And I said, well, if you say yours, I'll say mine. And then he said, okay, well, what if we say it at the same time? I was like, oh, yeah, that'll work. So he starts to count down from 3. He goes 3, 2, 1, and then he just doesn't say anything. I don't know why I didn't expect that, because that is like the most classic trick in the book when it comes to questions like that. He just said 3, 2, 1. Just fuck it. He didn't even pretend. He didn't even like try to juke me or pump fake me. He didn't even like try. He knew that I was committing to it, because clearly if I brought the question up, I wanted to say something. So he knew that I wasn't going to hold back on whatever I was going to say, so he just stopped. And again, lo and behold, I said the first half of the teacher's name, but that was more than enough. I didn't say the last half. I just kind of trailed off. But yeah, he knew what I was talking about, and he fucking loved it. He started laughing his ass off and immediately ran across the room to tell Aryan. And lunch was after, so you can guess how that went. Fucking everybody knew. And yes, we had her class right after lunch with not just Jeremy, but 4 of our other friends, so 6 of us total in her class, which was, again, awkward as hell for not only that day, but, like, for the rest of the year, where anytime she would do anything, they would just, like, look over me and smirk and say, they couldn't fucking control themselves, and in hindsight, it was hilarious. Like, I'm sorry I reacted so terribly to it, because that was so fucking funny. Like, one of the times where, because this was one of the classes where she would walk around at the beginning of class checking our homework, and since it was 8th grade math, 8th grade advanced math, I should mention that, we were all good enough at math to just do it in the 3 minutes it took for her to get to our table, because we were, like, one of the last tables she checked. So, one of the times I pulled up my homework late, and obviously it wasn't done, so I started doing it while she was checking class, and I made the mistake of turning around to see where she was in the room to see how much time I had left, and she was at the table right next to us, facing away from me, and I'm sitting down, so I turn around into basically looking right at her ass, and of course, everyone at my table fucking thought that was the funniest thing that had ever happened, and in hindsight, it was probably really funny to see, because I just turned around and looked at it, and I immediately turned back like, oh, nope, I'm not giving them any more ammo than they already have for that. But I did that. That was one of the monumental times where she got to our table, and then I'm the only one who is not currently laughing their ass off except for Vince, who didn't get the joke yet. So the 4 out of the 6 of us are laughing our ass off. Vince is looking around trying to figure out why they are laughing their ass off. And I'm sitting there trying not to look at the teacher as she's asking me, hey, what's going on? Because I'm the only one that looks relatively normal at the time. And I just say, oh, they made a joke about hockey, because we were playing hockey in PE during that time. And she said, oh, I love hockey. Are you guys watching the Sharks game tonight? And so she tried to start like a mini conversation with me about hockey. And of course, it just made the 4 fucking hyenas laugh even harder. And then she checked all our homework. None of it was done because they were laughing instead of finishing it. And she goes up to the front of the room to do attendance. And the second she's out of earshot, someone looks up at me. I think it was probably Jeremy, but I don't remember for sure. He just looks up at me and goes, oh, you have something in common now. And I hated that back then. And understandably so. You know, I'm not mad at myself for hating it, because I had a good fucking reason to hate it. But it was really funny, and she was really hot, so I had a reason to do that as well. But yeah, that's generally the whole teacher saga. There was more of it that, actually, most of you don't know. Unless your name is Mateo or Ben, you were not there for. That, actually, I might as well just, no, I'll leave that for the next part. I'll leave that for 8th grade part 2, but yeah. There is another part that I don't think you guys know about unless Mateo or Ben said something, which I don't think they did. But yeah, that's generally the teacher saga. What the other headlines? Oh, another headline that Jeremy caused is something that we talked about for a long time. So, in 8th grade, I got my hair cut shorter than I had gotten it cut ever up to that point in my life. I got it really short, to the point where it would, like, stand up. I mean, I'm sure you guys remember that. And more specifically, you remember the nickname the lesbian cut, because apparently I looked like A stereotypical lesbian, or B, as Alex put it, a stereotypical 70s woman. So thank you for that. But obviously I didn't like being called a lesbian as a 13-year-old, especially because half of my last name means lesbian anyway. I didn't need that extra bridge. So, they're just calling it lesbian cut or Joey the Lesbo. It didn't bother me as much as the teacher thing did, but it was still, something. So one day, we're waiting in line for our first class of the day. Or no, it was during break, because in 8th grade, Jeremy, Adrian, and I had the same first 2 periods, and it was reading and writing again. And we had a break between. The teacher let us walk around during passing period and, eat snacks and stuff. So we were doing that. And the teacher let us stay out for, 2 extra minutes. So that's what we were doing. And, of course, I, moved my hair around for something, and Jeremy was like, oh, you're freshening up the lesbian cut, or whatever the fuck. I don't remember how this started. But I remember him saying something like that, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to hit him with some super hard logic right now and be like, well, if I'm a lesbian, that means I'm still going to get more girls than you, which in the mind of a 13-year-old is true and makes sense. It doesn't now, or at least not, it doesn't make sense as a good comeback, and apparently Jeremy didn't think so either, because he must have had this thing locked and loaded. I don't know how it came out so fast. It was so natural, no hesitation whatsoever. Just right off the rip, catch and shoot, fucking drained it. No chance. He just looked at me and goes, okay, Ellen degenerate. I was fucking destroyed. That was the only time in my life where I have legitimately said, okay, you win that interaction, let's go back inside. I'll take that L, I'm 0-1 for the day, let's just move on to the next one. The second the words left his mouth, I knew I had nothing left to say. Ellen degenerate, and just the tone he said it and how casually, everything about it fucking destroyed me. Without any doubt. That was one of the funniest things I've ever been called in my life, I'm pretty sure. Off the top of my head, it is number 1. With just how obviously offended I was before. I was like, oh, I'm still gonna get more girls than you. Okay, Ellen degenerate. Not only am I being compared to Ellen, but a degenerate form of Ellen? Dude, there was no chance. That was one of the pinnacle moments of that. Now, I thought that happened in freshman year, but a little bit ago I was talking to Jeremy and he said it happened in 8th grade, so I'm just going to tell it here. Maybe I was right, I don't know. I'm not going to ask anyone else because you get the point no matter when it happened. But yeah, that was another big one, and I'll just finish off the Jeremy story arc now. Jeremy used to play Counter-Strike a lot in 8th grade. And he got really good at it to the point where he had a very, very good game. So he got reported for hacking. And when you get reported for hacking on that game, it runs like a remote scan on your computer to see if you have any downloaded hacks. And apparently it caught something and banned him from the game for life. He was livid about this for weeks. This dude came to school hot-headed as shit because he couldn't play Counter-Strike anymore. And I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Because the only other time I had ever heard of Counter-Strike up to that point was in a Smosh Games video where one of their members just said it once. So now, this happens and I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking hilarious. And this is to the point where this is probably halfway through the year. So Jeremy and I had gotten more than close enough for me to make fun of him about something. So that was really funny. But then, I don't remember when this was. It might have been more recently. But Jeremy said that he had downloaded a hack from Minecraft, I think. I might be wrong about that. I don't know if he actually said that. Okay, I remember him saying that he downloaded a hack for another game, but I don't remember if it was Minecraft. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, but when we asked him again, this was at least a year or two later, we're like, okay, so what did it actually catch? Because clearly it thought you were hacking something. It caught you having something on your computer. What was it? And for whatever reason, I just remember him being like, okay, I had a hack from Minecraft. And that was really funny too. So those were all of the major Jeremy-based events in 8th grade. Another thing that I did talk about this in my last video, and I think I said I would say something about this, so I will. Our reading and writing teacher, I'm not going to say her name for the same reasons. She was really funny, she was really interactive. She was a really good teacher, but she was a very big Patriots fan. Really big Tom Brady fan specifically. And I'm a Denver Bronco fan, and at the time, Peyton Manning was on the team. And Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were career rivals for a long time. And this was the year after Deflategate. This was the school year after the Patriots won the Super Bowl and had deflated the footballs in the Super Bowl. And this was the school year that eventually the Broncos would win the Super Bowl in February of that school year. On my friend Adrian's birthday, by the way. I don't know why I remember that. But yeah. So, once we got comfortable enough with the teacher, I would put the word Deflategate or just Tom Brady sucks on the side of my essays. And at first she didn't catch it, or at least she didn't care. But it got to the point where she would recognize it, and then one time she went on like a 5-minute speech on why Tom Brady is the greatest player of all time. And that was fucking hilarious. And that was the point where Jeremy was like, okay, I don't know that much about football, but I know enough to do this. So he started doing the same thing. And eventually we convinced our friend Adrian to do the same thing. So she had 3 sets of essays every time coming in that were some kind of backhanded remarks about Tom Brady sprinkled in. And I remember on the last day we were using these journals that we would write in. It was the last prompt, the very last page of the workbook. I wrote something completely, and then I wrote like 3 or 4, like close to a paragraph about why Tom Brady isn't that good. And this was towards the end of the year. So after the Broncos had won the Super Bowl. So I had something now. I had leverage to do this. And I remember I turned it in with a giant smile on my face, and I turned it in first because I wrote really fast. My handwriting was awful, and it still is, but I write really, really fast. And I made sure to turn this in first because I always noticed that whoever turns it in first, she would read it over while she's waiting for the other ones to be turned in. So I wanted her to read this in class, and I wanted to see her reaction live, real time, and I did it. I turned it in first, and she read it, and I see her face kind of smile when she gets to the last page. She stands up and says, okay, public service announcement. She holds up my notebook and writes, Tom is great, and then tears it in half. I don't know whether it was trying to be serious or whether it was trying, like, I don't fucking know, but I remember being so absurdly funny that while everyone else in class except for me is writing their final essay of the year, which was worth a lot, she stands up and says pretty loudly, Tom is great, and then proceeds to rip the thing in half. Holy shit, that was absurdly funny. Way more than it should have been. Oh, wow, okay. Let's just move along the periods now. I'm going to tell a couple more stories, then I'm going to wrap it up for this video because I do want to leave a lot more for the second part of 8th grade. Now, let's see, what's another? Oh, the game design class. One more story from the reading and writing class, which isn't really related to that. And then there'll be one last main eventer from the game design class, and that'll be it for this video. So, one more. Whenever we would have assemblies in middle school, it would be during the first 2 periods because you want to take up as much as you can, right, without really taking up that much of the day. So it would be within the first 2 periods, or sometimes it would be within your reading and writing. I don't remember sure exactly, but either way, we were there during first and second period, and we had been prepped on this assembly for like almost a month. This was one of the most hyped up assemblies we've had. And when I say hyped up, I mean hyped up. There were posters around the school for this thing with the assembly date on them. I want to say it was drugs. It was like it was generally just like a puberty assembly. Just like, don't do drugs, don't have sex, don't not use a condom. Just, you know the puberty assembly, right? It's the puberty assembly. That's what this was. So, we'd seen the posters for a month. We had heard teachers talk about it for a month. We had heard like the name of this organization that I don't remember now, and I really don't want to, for a month. This was the most hyped up assembly we have ever had. Most hyped up single assembly. There was a chain of assemblies, which I will get to in my next video, that was more hyped up. This was the most hyped up single assembly we have ever had. So, it's first and second period. I'm with Jeremy and Adrian. We walk in, we sit down, we're talking about something, not looking at the stage of the cafeteria. We're just talking about something. Adrian slowly turns his head and goes, guys? And we turn and look up, and there's a fucking playground on the stage. I shit you not. I'm sure you remember this. There's a swing set. There's a set of monkey bars. There's a bench, I think. and then like a half slide and just a normal ladder. There's a slide that has a ladder on it, but then there's just a normal ladder elsewhere. All of it neon colors, different neon colors, by the way. So we look up and see this neon playground on our cafeteria stage where we have had talent shows and where we eat lunch sometimes. After being prepped for a month, this was going to be the classic puberty assembly. At that point, we realized, oh, we're going to want to pay attention to this, not because we want the information, but because this is going to be some really dumb shit that is going to be hilarious to us because we're 13. Lo and behold, a bunch of people who look like they're in their mid-20s walk out on stage, pretending to be teenagers, talking about how marijuana is bad and how you shouldn't kiss people because it leads to fucking, and fucking can lead to kids and herpes. I mean, the classic stuff, but it's told by 25-year-olds dressed like the Wiggles. And I don't know why, but they got to the mental health part, and normally that's like the most, like, they try not to do an act during that part of the puberty assembly, is the part about depression and mental health, because it's kind of hard to pretend to be a 25-year-old Wiggle when you're talking about mental illness. Not these people. These people didn't stop the act. These people kept it up with the acting like a teenager, dressed like doing these weird little dances and catchphrases. So I remember there was 2 guys and a girl, or maybe 2 and 2 in this little production, whatever you want to call it. And one of the girls sat down on the swing set, and another guy comes up and sits kind of like on the side of the swing set, leaning up against the bars. I'm like, okay, what's this going to be about? Is this going to be about, like, eating disorder or, like, how you should use a condom or some dumb shit? Nope. The girl on the swing says, I've been thinking about killing myself recently. What? Hello? Maybe, like, build up to that next time. Maybe don't just, like, completely switch into a new scene and that's your lead-off line. That's what you start with. That's, like, your tone setter for the new scene. And then they just have, like, the most, like, uplifting tone during this conversation, but the conversation is about suicide prevention, how you should, like, seek help if you're depressed. But they're talking in that classic, like, well, I don't know, Marcy. I don't really know if that's the best option today. Like, people talking the fucking Cosby Show. Like, it's like Blue's Clues, but they're talking about hanging yourself. Like, what the fuck are you... It was the most surreal thing I had experienced up to that point. And that was the point where we were like, okay. Because everything up to that point was them using that same tone, but saying the word sex, condom, and drugs, which to 13-year-olds is really fucking funny. Surprise, surprise. Then they hit us with that, and we're just like, nope, okay, we don't want anything to do with this. We don't want to see this anymore. We don't want to see this weird-ass swing set on our stage. We don't want to see them climb on the monkey bars and talk about girls ever again. This is weird. This is fucking out of pocket. No thank you. Goodbye. And we never talked about it again. We talked about it for that day at lunch and then never again because it was very, very clear that that last scene made all of us at least a little uncomfortable. But holy shit, I'll never forget that moment of Adrian turning to the stage and going, guys? And then we see this neon playground and we just stare at it for like 10 minutes before the assembly starts because the people who were playing the Wiggles were running late or something. But yeah, that's the most memorable single assembly for me. Now let's get on to game design. And yes, there were if I can speak, the class was called game design. On purpose, it wasn't a mistake, surprise. But the teacher, again, won't say his name, his this time, but he was a teacher when we were in 7th grade. And I know that because Alex and I had him for a specific program for this, like, GATE program we were in. Didn't pan out. We never actually did anything, but that's our impression of him is, like, he doesn't generally like to teach that much. Now he's in this computer lab with, you know what a computer lab is, and he's teaching a course called game design. So we get in there, and he is pretty much like the classic stoner surfer dude, just minus the long hair. Blonde hair, blue eyes, pretty pale. He talks like this all the time, except his voice is, like, lighter and more stoned to the point where I can't replicate it anymore. I don't know how he talks like that all the time. It was weird. He looks and kind of sounds like Jake Paul, but a little more stoned, which is not a great comparison to have, I know, but we get into this class, And when he gives us the syllabus, this looks like it's going to be like a legitimately challenging one of our harder classes. We're going to have to learn how to code and like make 3 original games throughout the year as like trimester finals. And like the list of supplies was like the longest thing we've ever seen. And he said like, okay, 3rd day of class, have all these supplies, you're going to be graded on it. And we were. That was the only grade ever put in the grade book. I got 100% in that class because I brought flashcards on the first Wednesday of class. I'm not kidding. That's not a joke. That's how it happened. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this class in the next video. But one thing I do specifically want to mention in this video is the fire alarm incident. Now, the fire alarm incident was exactly as it sounds. Someone pulled the fire alarm, but not normally. See, this is not the first time this happened in middle school. This is the last time, and probably the funniest time. So everyone was trying to like do their little coding, make their little game on the computer, and this one dude is throwing a paper airplane around, and he throws it towards the fire alarm on the wall. And we look down, look up, the paper airplane's gone, and he's now throwing like a granola bar into the trash can like a basketball. Okay, look down again. Ding, 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 ding. Fucking fire alarm starts blaring. We look up to see this guy standing by the fire alarm like 2 or 3 feet away, just staring dead-eyed, and the teacher's staring dead-eyed at him, and he just says, "What did you do?" And we immediately put all the pieces together and go, "Oh, oops, this is from us." And this is a class I had like 5 other friends in. But so the whole time, we're laughing like, "Oh, this is our fault." And the teacher goes out and says, I don't know why he did this, because he knew this wasn't going to work, or at least he should have known. He walks out onto the little ramp to get up to this room and goes, "Everyone back inside, this is our fault, not a real fire, back inside, back inside." Obviously no one fucking listens, because no one's going to listen to that. We stay in our room for a while to the point where like another teacher comes in and says, "What are you guys doing? You have to get out right now." And as we're walking out to the blacktop to where our line is, our teacher and that kid don't come with us. So we come back to find the vice principal talking with the teacher and the kid on the ramp, talking about what happened. Now, up to this point, we have had multiple theories of how this happened. I don't think anyone actually knows, because I don't think anyone actually saw it except for those 2. Theory 1 is that he just pulled it, right? Like on purpose. Theory 2 is that he pulled it on accident trying to unjam his paper airplane, but apparently got stuck in it. Theory 3 was that the paper airplane got stuck, and he left it, and then he threw the granola bar, it hit the paper airplane, which dragged the lever down. Theory 4 was that he somehow hit the fire alarm with his granola bar, and then it just went off. I don't know which one I believe, because I have no idea that any of those could even happen outside of the first one. I don't know how the physics of that works. Or maybe if you just hit the thing hard enough, it triggers the sensor anyway? I don't know. But either way, this dude pulled the fire alarm. I don't think it was number 1. The only one that seems physically possible is the one I believe the least, if I'm being honest. Because I don't think he would just pull it and then look that devastated that he did it. But yeah, that happened. And you know what? I'll sneak a couple more stories about this in this video, because it's not as long as I thought it would be, but let's see. Oh yeah, this is the class that I watched a bunch of Conor McGregor highlights in, like on YouTube, because we had the computer access was completely unrestricted, by the way, which, again, 13-year-olds is a problem. So I was watching Conor McGregor highlights most of the time, because I was really into UFC at the time, and the teacher walks up behind me one day and just goes, "Joey, stop." And I paused the video, he walks away, and I just pressed play, and I just kept doing it. He didn't fucking check. But, I will say another big one about this class right now. I said we were in a computer lab, right? Not for the whole year. I don't know what happened. I think the computers had to get updated or wiped, or like there was a virus on one, they had to get completely reset or something. I don't know. But we essentially got kicked out of the room, and we were made to believe that it was our fault. Not entirely certain on that either, but that's what my memory holds. So we got kicked out to the other computer lab, but it wasn't the other computer lab. Again, I don't know whose idea this was. I don't know how this came to pass, Maybe it was because they weren't allowed to have a regular class in the computer lab because other classes had to be able to rent it out. But we were in the room next door to the computer lab, which was a room with like 4 to 6 total computers that were like on 2 walls of the room, not even all the walls, and just 2 long tables and a TV and a whiteboard. First week we're in there, teacher doesn't know how to access the computers. There's a different password on these ones for, again, a completely stupid reason that I'm sure didn't need to be this hard. But we don't have access to the computers for the first week or two. Then we get on the computers, trying to log onto our accounts. They don't work. We have to use another week figuring out how to actually get onto our coding accounts on these computers. Then, for 1 week, one glorious week, we got them to work, and they were fine. We did our work on them. Then the week after that, we come back, and the teacher's like, yeah, so we're not allowed to use these computers anymore. What? What does that mean? I don't remember if he clarified it at all. I think Alex remembers this incident a lot better than I do, so if he wants to clarify it, go ahead, but like, why? Excuse me? Oh, whoa, the glare is showing. You can see my hand in the top left corner when I do this. That's fucking crazy. Anyway, yeah, like, I don't know why, but we weren't allowed to use computers for what ended up being close to 2 months towards the end of the year. And we just, like, we played board games for most of that time. So, that was pretty funny. Let's see, is there anything else I want to try and squeeze in here? Alright, no, that's going to be it for this video, but I will do a little preview for the next video. What else would I be talking about in the next video? I will be talking about PE. There are a couple stories from PE we can tell. I'll be talking about Noah's bathroom incident, which I believe happened in 8th grade. Not entirely sure, but I'm going to be talking about it in the next video regardless. So those two, the Mr. King saga, which is honestly enough to fill a video in its own right, and a couple more game design stories, and the finale to the hot math teacher saga that I had promised. So yeah, that's a little preview for the next video. This is only 32 minutes, so it'll be real easy to get up. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like it. Yep.